Thank you for watching 12 News at 6. I'm Brenda Matute. We begin with new developments on two Beaumont massage parlors that have been shut down. Yesterday, we told you these parlors are owned by a Houston man who recently agreed to close down his businesses amid a state investigation into suspected human trafficking. The state revoked. We begin with breaking news tonight. Fire crews are battling a large fire in downtown Beaumont. This historic building went up in flames just after 7 this evening. It's the Gilbert building, located right off of Bowie and Pearl Street, about a block away from Crockett. And we're going to show you a live look at what the fire looks like now. This is nearly 3 hours since the building first went up in flames. Good evening, Southeast Texas. Thanks for joining us. Certainly a chaotic scene for fire crews tonight. Beaumont Fire Chief Earl White confirms it's a 2-alarm fire, and he's confident it will not continue to spread. Was killed by his own son. Now 25-year-old Logan Birdsong is charged with murder. Good evening, Southeast Texas. In December, authorities say the father and son were arguing when things took a violent turn. It's a gruesome case of elder abuse. Mighty muscle fighting fire tonight. You're watching as Southeast Texas firefighters band together to fight the flames in Newton County. Around 8 this evening, fire officials finally were able to contain the flames, but not before it scorched nearly 160 acres. This race has big implications for Southeast Texas, but only people living within District 21 are allowed to vote. So we made you guys a map. You can see all of Jasper counties and all of Orange counties are allowed to vote. Kayla, I sympathize with many of those viewers. Lots of folks didn't know what they'd be running into on I-10. Thanks so much. Now, the crack was discovered by Beaumont police early this morning. Officers were responding to a crash in that area.
Jordan, it's pretty dark out here. I'll say that. We're about 3 to 4 miles out from where the fire is because of the barriers, but it's still smoky and hazy out here in Jasper County. You know, this is by far one of the largest wildfires we've seen in Southeast Texas this summer. When we came on the air at 6 o'clock, this fire had burned about 1,000 acres. We checked in around 8:39ish, and it was up to 1,500 acres. Tonight at 10, it's at 2,000 acres, and it seems like it's not slowing down. This fire is growing by the minute. Governor Abbott came out here to Anzalduas Park with 10 other governors, all from across the country, to discuss immigration. That group came up with a 10-step plan. They say the Biden administration with Ted Cruz. Now, if the Biden administration doesn't respond to this, how do you and other state officials plan to move forward? Right after the press conference, I was able to ask the governor a question myself about what they're going to do if the president or the administration refuses to respond to their call to action. He told me they're just going to keep using state resources to do what they say the federal government is not doing. Thank you for joining us for this special edition of 12 News at 6. We're coming to you live from the 80th annual YMBL South Texas State Fair. I'm Brenda Matute here with very exciting news, and we'll be following that. I am laughing because Patrick just wiped his kebab on my shirt.
I did not wipe the kebab. I wiped my fingers.
Okay, well, now there's kebab
my greasy
on my
fingers.
Shirt. It sure is. Nothing says party like a gator mascot out here. We're out here at the Museum of the Gulf Coast. He's dancing. He's celebrating the fact that Port Arthur has officially been named the Cajun capital of Texas. A lot of folks I talk to say they knew that, but it's nice to have the official designation. Now I'm here with Derek Castillo with the Port Arthur Convention and Visitors Bureau. And Derek, like you said, this is something folks who are from this area have known. Now I want to bring in Chief Meteorologist Patrick Vaughn. Now Patrick, it's been a pretty hot day. We were well in the 100s, and here in the lakes area above the 100 temperature mark. And really these dry and hot conditions have made it a perfect storm for these wildfires to thrive.
You're exactly right, Brenda. Temperature.
Welcome back, you guys, to Local 23 today. We are live at Border Fest 2022. Lots of excitement, a little bit of drizzle. I'm joined by our reporter Xochitl Lagunas, who's here to chat about one of the big headliners and talk about sticking to their roots. Tonight they're playing at the Palm View High School prom, so these kids are going to get a pretty good show, and one of the musicians says his niece and nephew actually attend the high school. So it's really exciting. It's pretty cool. Lots of locals attending Border Fest, so I think everybody's excited as long as this drizzle goes away.
Get right to the candidates themselves of State Rep District 21. I spoke one-on-one with incumbent Dade Phelan and his challenger David Covey to hear why they believe they deserve the votes of Southeast Texans.
I call the House Representatives of the 88th Legislature.
It's a race between the man who holds the gavel and the political newcomer just hoping for a seat in the House chamber. Incumbent Dade Phelan and David Covey, two men who say they can advocate best for Southeast Texas these next 2 years.
3, 2, 1.
Starting with your money.
Texas has a pretty high tax rate, the 13th highest in the country. But you would want to add on top of that?
To be clear, I'm not advocating for a consumption tax. I'm advocating to eliminate property taxes. We move that from the few people who own property, spread that out to a larger group of the population, and that makes everyone pay less.
I want to sit down and talk to him about his sales tax.
House Speaker Phelan, who's been representing the 409 the last 10 years in Austin, calls this plan a far reach that could leave voters with empty purses.
We cannot just rely on a consumption tax when we have no income tax and we have no property tax, whether it's fire, EMS, public education, drainage, you name it. It would only be funded by consumption tax, which would be a sales tax, which means that you would go from a 8.25% sales tax to 27% sales tax.
Covey is a Mauriceville native, and when it comes to education, he's got a clear platform.
I think that we need to have school choice and vouchers and the ability of parents to choose what's best for their children.
But after advocating for eliminating property taxes, Covey offered no clear vision on what taxes would then fund public education.
No, I can't give you the rate.
It takes a village to pass laws in Austin, and during this time of political strife and division, both House District 21 contenders are relying on different approaches to serve this community.
At the end of the day, there are Democrats in the legislature, so how would you work with them if you were elected?
Well, they can work with us because we're going to do what's best for the state. And if they want to work with us, then they can, but otherwise, they're going to have to do what they need to do.
I will never apologize for working with anyone who wants to work with me. That tradition of working with every member of the Texas legislature goes back to Sam Houston.
In the nearly 2 centuries since Texas established its first legislature, Phelan touts being the only House Speaker from the Golden Triangle.
We've never had a speaker in 176 years from Southeast Texas. We have record funding for our ports, record funding for our higher education, record funding for our transportation, record funding for our drainage. And that's just the local stuff I'm talking about.
12 News offered to host a live debate between both candidates for you ahead of Election Day.
He's dodging us, and then he tried to have a rigged debate with a different station with a moderator who is obviously of a liberal bent.
I would be willing to debate this man on Channel 12 for an hour, for 2 hours, you name it. I'll debate him on this corner of the street.
And while both candidates accepted in person, only Dade Phelan's campaign responded to our formal invitation.